Well, hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a big show lined up for you. Let's get right on into it. All right, let's pull up this screen. All right, the Vols have 3 5-stars that are really looking hard at the Vols. They happen to all be wide receivers. And the question is, who's going to commit first? So the Vols are in on a lot of 5-stars. These just happen to be wide receivers. I think it's going to be incredibly easy for the Vols to sign top-end wide receivers for some obvious reasons. Number one, you start out with Jalen Hyatt. He had a huge year. You can see right here 67 receptions for over 1,200 yards and, of course, 15 touchdowns, which was crazy good, with an 18.9-yard average per catch. So, yeah, Jalen went from really a 4-star guy that we were wondering when he was going to show up to an All-American Biletnikoff winner. So that was pretty huge. And now all the wide receiver 5-stars and 4-stars out there that are looking for somewhere to go are going, hey, you know, they took this guy from kind of an unknown to the number 1 wide receiver in the country and probably going to be picked first or second round in the NFL draft. So that's development. And that's what happens in these Heupel offenses. You get developed. And another guy who really got developed well was Cedric Tillman. I'm going to show you what he was rated coming out of high school, and you're going to be a little bit surprised. Some of you may already know this, but right here you can see, 6'3", 215, and here he is. In high school, he was ranked the 1,677th player in the country, number 246 wide receiver, and a very low 3-star, almost a 2-star. And this guy was sitting on the bench for Pruitt, and all of a sudden, Josh Heupel comes in, and he's blowing up. And let's take a look at his stats before he hurt his ankle. And take a look at this. In 2020, 2019, 2018, he had 8 catches total for all 3 years. Then Josh Heupel shows up in 2021. He has 64 catches for over 1,000 yards and 12 touchdowns. And he had a great start to 2022 until the Akron low hitters showed up and started hitting everybody low and actually took out his ankle. They almost took out our guy, Hendon Hooker. If you'll remember a couple of those quarterback plays where he had an option, they went after Hendon's knees twice. And Heupel finally saw that, and he quit doing any of that because that was their goal. Their goal was to hit as low as they could. And needless to say, Cedric didn't appreciate it. I believe he even came out on a tweet about it. But that's what Josh Heupel does. He develops guys. He takes them from either off the bench or maybe they're talented guys that are barely getting to play, and all of a sudden they just blow up. And the NFL comes calling, and that's usually what happens. Now let's talk about some other development he's done that isn't a wide receiver. How about this guy? Hendon Hooker lost his job at Virginia Tech, very average quarterback, comes in here, blows up in 2021. I mean, kills it. And then 2022 goes on a Heisman run. And if he'd not gotten hurt in South Carolina game, the next to last game, he might very well have won it, or he'd probably finish runner-up. He's going to go probably late first round, early second round, even with a torn ACL. You want to talk about developing a player. This is as good as it gets when it comes from taking somebody literally off the bench and turning them into a Heisman Trophy candidate. And then one other player, Squirrel White. Yeah, Squirrel blew up as a freshman, and really he's just scratching the surface. This guy, again, they had him as a 3-star. Look here. Yep, 3-star candidate, number 78 wide receiver, 545th in the country. And here's his first year as a freshman. And understand, he's playing Cedric Tillman's in there. He's got Ramel Keaton. He's got Brew McCoy. Brew McCoy has just been fantastic. And Squirrel White gets 30 receptions for almost 500 yards and 2 touchdowns. And you saw how he played in the Orange Bowl. I mean, he is a nightmare matchup. He is so fast. I remember watching his highlights and going, there's no way this kid's a 3-star. It's just impossible. He's got to at least be a 4-star. And, of course, he got out on the field and just showed everybody what he's made of. And that speed is just, it's really difficult for the defense to handle. So I think we can get used to this type of development, especially with the offensive side of the ball. And these wide receivers that are looking hard at the Vols, they're all 3 5-stars, and I think there's a good chance we get 1, maybe even 2. We'll see. And this is a real good story. It says Tennessee's football recruiting Vols top 2024 wide receiver targets. This is by Zach McKinnell. And, of course, we just got J.J. Harrell committed, who's a very high 4-star, and also Jonathan Eccles, who's probably going to be a tight end. He's a very high 4-star as well. But here he's talking about Mike Matthews, who's out of Georgia, and this guy is the type of player that the Bulldogs always seem to get, and they either wind up as a wide receiver or typically some sort of a defensive back, and they're a nightmare. They're super fast. They knock the crap out of you, and this is exactly that type of guy, which is why he'd be a great get for us, either as a wide receiver or a defensive back. He's 6'2", 180. He is the number 6 player in the country, and he has visited the Vols several times. And, of course, he's played as a receiver and a defensive back with 48 receptions, 1,000 yards, 10 touchdowns. He could play any position he wants, other than maybe offensive lineman. He visited the Vols on October 15th with the win against Alabama. Talked about what a great time he had there, and he is a definite possibility for us. Then we've got another fella by the name of Josiah Trader. He is another 5-star, number 14 in the country. Had 714 yards caught, 7 touchdowns, averaged almost 16 yards. Just a really strong player, and he's got his top 5 is Tennessee, Florida, Miami, Florida State, and Ohio State. Here you see that right here. And then lastly, a guy who I really think the Vols have a fantastic chance at is Ryan Wingo. 6'2", 200 pounds. I've showed you his highlights. He's a top 30 player in the country. He's already got a crystal ball prediction going to the Vols. 13 touchdowns, almost 800 yards. Of course, he can 44 tackles, 2 interceptions. He plays defensive back as well, of course. First team all-conference, and he's got us in his top teams to pick from. So I really think at this point it's going to be kind of Heupel's almost going to be drafting wide receivers because, look, if you're a wide receiver out there and you're not looking at the Vols, you're almost probably crazy.
Get me out of here! Here, just eat that! Leave us alone!
Because look what he's done with guys who aren't 5-stars. I mean, look what he did with a low 3-star with Cedric Tillman, a 4-star in Jalen Hyatt that really we were wondering if he was ever going to show up. And then how about a Squirrel White, a Brew McCoy, Ramel Keaton? I mean, just on and on. He has just brought them to the top. And now you can see what they can really do. And there's so many wide receivers watching this. It kind of reminds me of what Rick Barnes did with, remember, Williams and Admiral Schofield? You know, they came in as low 3-stars, and he coached them up. Next thing you know, they're going in the first round in the NBA draft. And that's what great coaches do. They coach you up and develop you and turn you into the best player you can be. And who better to develop players, especially a quarterback or wide receivers, than Josh Heupel in that offense? So I don't think we could be in better hands, and I think we're going to end up hopefully in the top 5 in recruiting, which is where we need to go. Last year we were 9th. The year before we were 23rd during that whole Jeremy Pruitt nightmare. Big dummy.
You're a big dummy there. I'm not kidding you. You're a big dummy.
Yep, can't forget big dummy. Well, anyway, Heupel has overcome that really well, and now it's time for us to really put the pedal to the metal or the thing to the floor.
I'm going. I got the metal to the pedal and the thing to the floor.
Anyway, I think Ryan Wingo will be the first to pull the trigger. I could be wrong. We'll see. But I think Ryan Wingo is going to commit first. I think he really – and look, if you're out there and you're a 5-star, you want to commit first because what that's going to do is get other 5-stars to go, well, do I really want to go there? And they've already got this 5-star or that 5-star. I think as a quarterback, I would think the same way. It's like if I was a 5-star quarterback, maybe the one from 2025 that's taking a look at us, we've got a couple of them that may be sitting there going, man, I may pull the trigger early on it come next year so I can kind of keep other 5-star quarterbacks away. That's kind of, the mindset. But I still think we got a shot at maybe 2 of them. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. That's meant to continue to cover the Vols and all that good stuff. And oh, by the way, we got a big game today at 3:30. We're playing Ole Miss in the SEC tournament, quarterfinals, and I'm looking forward to watching that. And if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. That's meant to continue to cover the Vols, the SEC, and all that good stuff. If you've not subscribed, it's right here on the left. Costs you nothing, helps me out. Just boom, and you're done. So simple. And right over here, my most recent video, I think it's the one about saving. It's funny. You might like it. Anyway, we'll see you next time on Sports Talk Jay.